nonprofits. So that's
You only reclaim the stick to take me to Dennis. 1 year anniversary since I've been here. And one of the first houses I visited was this time around. Yes. Brenda.
yeah, you can problems with him when they want to they don't want to go directly.
No, I didn't go.
You don't have space.
That was ministry.
But if you can regardless, I think whether you do that or whether you come
Get after
You're not here for which year?
I'm trying to do that. I was my bachelor was in labor.
I wish we had another stand.
Industrial labor relations. But that's just a bachelor.
You have a stand?
I still have.
No, I have a water bottle.
A what?
I'm actually looking how they are.
Because I wanted to to record. So this one we are beaming on Facebook.
What's up? No, I'm from London. I came from London.
Then I wanted to record.
I'm just going to get top.
Like
But there's
having
going to
it
be
from
someone
here.
traveling. Just put on the chat. Anyway.
Just to record for.
And people don't
for
say
future
when,
use.
when, now you need someone to
Let's see what you have.
Eh? We didn't say hello to that girl. She's from Zambia?
Alright. Pale Pushati, usholi wa Zambia.
Savior. Oh, okay. Nice to meet you. What's your name?
Loretta.
Loretta. Okay, Loretta Scott King.
I wish. Chingandu.
Chingandu.
Okay.
Loretta, see for you and had once put us in touch. Jeffrey, last year.
Yes. You're the lady
From Oxford.
Wow.
Yeah. we have been put in touch, but we never connected.
Alright guys, 5 minutes we'll be starting. Just quickly setting up this.
Don't I look like the
I related to an
the
aging
chief for
My cousin.
So what did you do here?
Last year, he came here.
Where?
Yeshiva University.
Where?
Yeshiva.
Yeshiva.
We were together with
Apollo.
Mapalo. Mapalo, the one who intended.
Did you come before the $10,000 bond?
We didn't finish that conversation, by the way.
Eh, that's Puishishe.
You can't believe that thing is real.
It's real.
Like, who's going to come
And
here?
not only $10,000, but it also takes forever to get that appointment.
Asabia, $10,000.
Who's going to
Even if you say at the old exchange rate, it's still a problem.
When I was serious, you have
No, it's just a band.
It's just a band. It's a diplomatic band.
It's a diplomatic ban, eh?
Yeah, it's a.
Because for you to come here, you should really need to come here.
Me,
You know what I mean, eh?
I have $10,000.
You should go 10 $10.
15.
You'd rather start a business.
5, 10, and 15.
Yeah.
They said 10 on the day of their, when it kicked in.
So what
And
do you do?
I mean for kids.
So you-
it's 5 for kids.
5 for kids.
Yeah, for kids.
So what do? You get an appointment, then you go
You
with
want to
cash.
deposit it, they give you you want to deposit the money when you get us approved.
Oh.
If it's not approved, you will not.
You don't have to
Yeah.
deposit.
Just lose the visa.
So you take cash or you take, you put it
No,
in
they
the bank.
give you a link.
They give you
Oh, the way, even
They
the,
want an escrow account.
but you know that even the,
No, that 10,000 is for 3 months. It's not even for 10 years.
No.
to have it.
and then they pay you back how? With the interest, capital gains. The interest, or they give you exacting 10. At Wafuma, like you're going to jail.
No, I
They
think
give
no,
you
I think no
back.
interest. It's
No interest?
Yeah, it's security deposit. It's like a security deposit.
But you really need to want to come, need to get
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
It's a band.
But it's for which category of.
B1,
B1 and B2.
B1 is a visitor's visa, right?
One is business. No. One is tourist. One is business. Yeah, it's B1, B2.
Yeah, one is tourist, one is
But you also have to look at the H1, the professional. It's also, there's no 10,000, but it's 3 months.
Oh yeah, but there's
Yeah,
something here.
yeah, and it's single inch. And then also the student visa, it's also 3 months. 3 months for entry. Yes.
You come to do what in 3 months? Or you extend here?
No, that's the period of entry. And in Gawain, then single entry. No.
As a student.
Don't get
Fully off.
when you get in, they give you the days on I-24. So right
Yeah.
now, another program.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 years back. But that will freak up Fuma.
Once you leave before that, that's it.
Teacher, what is this? You don't-
Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
Brenda even became more. Recording in progress.
Very quick reaction.
Imagine.
Do you have anything?
Like a book.
Like a book?
No,
Just to raise the issue. Yeah, anything that can just. Pardon?
No, I'm saying that, we are the network of Zagners in the UN.
Yeah.
But I'm saying we've turned up because of you.
Oh, you're
Normally,
all like
I would not
a
have seen these.
I'm humbled.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to meet someone from the US.
Oh, from Eunice or you?
No, from the US.
Oh, that one.
Just
Oh, okay.
All
Oh.
these, everybody from here except the two of us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incorporated.
wow.
You're multilateral and you're what?
We're observers, but we speak the most perfect.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
Is it
I
my
think we're
mic?
good to go.
Is the mic on, yeah?
The mic is on.
The one on you.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay,
Over to you.
Great. So you like?
Yeah.
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Very excited to have incredible people joining us today. Both those who are joining us online and those who are here in the room. We're gathered here at the Baha'i International Community of the United Nations with participants joining us from around the world. Today's conversation comes at a very important moment where cities everywhere are struggling with rapid urbanization, economic uncertainty, the climate crisis, while also holding extraordinary potential as engines for innovation and opportunity. Today's conversation is going to be a blend.
Recording in progress.
Today's conversation is going to be a blend of a one-to-one with Honorable Christopher Kang'ombe, and we'll have a chance for all of us to engage in a conversation. We're hoping that we'll be able to engage in critical issues ranging from leadership and governance in urban cities, urban growth, migration, jobs for Zambia and Africa's youth, economic opportunity, mining, environmental stewardship, city planning, social and economic mobility, climate resilience, pluralism, inclusion, as well as institutions and accountability. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest, and in a more unconventional fashion, I would like to allow him to introduce himself. You wear many hats, but at the same time, you are an African, a Zambian, an engineer, a policy architect. Who are you? Who is Christopher Kang'ombe?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Did we have too much to eat at lunchtime? Yeah. Allow me first of all to thank Brighton for pulling this off. I'm saying pulling it off because I don't think I was going to have all the phone numbers, reach out, secure this very wonderful venue. I'm sure we all agree that this is a wonderful venue for this very, very important interaction. So Brighton, I'm very grateful. As I've been introduced, my name is Christopher Kang'ombe. Christopher Kang'ombe, as Brighton has put it, I'm an elected official back home in Zambia. I work in the National Assembly of Zambia. I don't think in Zambia we have the lower house and the upper house. We only have the National Assembly. And then we have sub-national governments in different districts. So we have 116 districts back home. So I'm a member of parliament representing a constituency called Kamfinsa constituency back home. But also I I'm a very passionate person about having the correct public policy to resolve problems. Because if we don't get it right at policy level, we then don't get it right at legislation level. And if we don't get it right at legislation level, then we have a problem at other levels of governance. So I'm this person who's very enthusiastic about, can we correct this policy? Can we have this working better? At the same time, academically, I was trained as an electrical mechanical engineer. So I worked a bit in the mining sector. That is why maybe I speak a lot about mining. As we open Parliament on Friday, I'll be hammering on mining. Why is mining not working for Zambia? I'm this person who's very passionate about this sector. And then, from a local government point of view, I was privileged to have worked as a ward councillor, which is maybe the lowest level of governance in Zambia. So you get elected at councillor level, you represent people in the municipality, you present problems affecting people. So I've worked 10 years at municipal level, and later on I was privileged to be mayor for the city of Kitwe, which is... And
you were a student when you were correct?
Yeah, I was in my third year at university with Vivan here, when I got elected as councillor, and then served 2 terms, which was 10 years, and then later on mayor for Kitwe, which is like now 15 years, before going into parliament. So I have quite a lot of experiences on issues to do with sustainability. And that is why today's theme, engineering sustainable cities, for me strikes a chord with some of the things that I believe in. So pretty much that is Christopher Kang'ombe. I'm an engineer by profession, a fellow of the EIZ, but also I decided later on that engineering will not be enough. I decided to pursue studies in a program that was introduced by the World Bank at the University of Zambia. And that program is a master's in economic policy management. So back in 2004, the World Bank decided to help Zambia equip public servants with issues to do with economic policy management. And that is what I studied at postgraduate level. Pretty much that is Christopher Kang'ombe. The rest we'll discuss as we go. I think that's a fairly good start, I think so. Yeah.
And you are in New York right now.
Yes.
You were in Arizona. What brings you to the United States? What inspired you to think about getting on a plane 7,000 miles across the Atlantic to come?
Oh, America is 7,000 miles. Okay. Yeah. Well, I was here, I think, 7 months ago, if not 6 months ago. I had an opportunity to interact with some of the Zambians that are stationed here. We came with the Minister of Health. There was a program that was taking place at the UN facility. But I noticed that after the sessions, I did not have enough time to interact with different people that are working in different spaces. There are people that are working in the environmental space. There are people that are working in the localization of SDG space. There are quite a number of things happening, but I don't think I had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people. So I decided to schedule a trip before Parliament opens, because I know what will happen when Parliament opens. We'll be going into the budget session. I don't think there'll be time for me to step out. So I thought before Parliament opens, let me travel, and the easiest place to get to, or one place which really got my attention, is which part of America do they do copper mining? And that is how I went into Arizona, because much of the copper for America is coming out of Arizona. We have a lot of Zambians that have been there 20, 30 years doing mining. And there are a lot of conversations back home about people protesting, they want to venture into mining. I'm sure you've picked it. There's so much illegal mining taking place. So I thought, let me go into Arizona, learn about how they are doing mining, how do they structure the ownership of mining, and then I shared with Brighton that I would want to come and share some of the challenges cities are facing. How do we share the Zambian experience, and maybe learn from you guys what is being done right elsewhere. So pretty much my coming is to come and interact with different people, not just Zambians, but I think people that are working in different spaces. And I think this is a good start. It's a good start for these conversations. Tomorrow, time allowing, I think I'll be able to step out, go into another part of America where I'm waiting just for them to confirm if the dialogue forum will be arranged for tomorrow and Thursday. So yeah, that is why I'm here, Brighton.
Excellent, thank
Yeah.
you. So you're somebody that has been in the political space for a bit of some time.
Yeah.
And I believe that later we'll get a chance for all of us to engage in dialogue. Yeah. But going back to the SDG goals, as well as Zambia's National Development Plan, SDG number 11 specifically calls for safe housing, sustainable transport, green spaces, with specific targets on at least having 1.5 million new homes by 2030, which is in the next 5 years. When you reflect on your experience as mayor of Kitwe, which is Zambia's second largest city, from your vantage point, where have you seen the strongest progress? And what are some of the fresh or unconventional ideas could accelerate momentum?
Well, from a housing point of view, you will not discuss housing without first of all discussing what I may call the policy. What's the policy on housing? So currently we have institutions such as the National Housing Authority that looks at housing from a planned point of view. So we have unplanned settlements in Zambia. I'm sure you are familiar with the setup in Zambia and much of Africa. You have planned areas and then you have the unplanned areas. So one of the challenges all the 116 councils face, especially the highly urbanized ones, Kitwe, Lusaka, Ndola, Chipata, and which other city do we have now? Livingston, is that you have people that are able to afford proper housing that is equipped with piped water, proper housing that is connected to the grid. Now, that is a planned setup. Those are our planned areas. Then we have places like Mulenga Compound, which is in my constituency, which is an unplanned settlement. So Kitwe, where I'm coming from, has got, initially we had 26 unplanned settlements. Now, if you have 26 unplanned settlements, it simply means that to provide proper housing to those particular settlements, you have to upgrade them. Now, to upgrade one settlement, you first need to ensure that you capture, you do what is called a social survey, you analyze how many people do we have in Mulenga. So you have challenges now to finance the whole process of funding for upgrading. So I was privileged when I was president for the Local Government Association of Zambia, which is a body of all the 116 councils back home. We sat with the technocrats, the town clerks, the municipal directors. We said, how can we upgrade our unplanned settlements? And that is how we came up with a proposal to central government. We said, can we introduce a levy or a tax, I don't know what we would call it, but we said it's a levy. And we said, what is one product which everyone buys where we can apply a levy and that money can go towards squatter improvement to upgrade our unplanned settlements? So we did a proposal to the Ministry of Finance that can we introduce what is called a cement levy. Now, what is a cement levy? A cement levy simply means for every bag of cement that is bought, if you are building, if any of us here is building, we buy cement in Zambia. So can we introduce a small amount for every bag that will go to what we'll call a squatter improvement fund or an unplanned settlement improvement fund, where we just start loading money into a fund to improve our unplanned settlements. So government agreed. I remember we went into State House as an association. We presented to the then Republican president, and Secretary to Treasury was there. They welcomed the idea. What a wonderful idea. So we were excited that all these monies from the cement levy will go towards improving unplanned settlements. Unfortunately, the income was accepted, but on the expenditure side, instead of the money going towards improving unplanned settlements, the money was taken into a general infrastructure fund. In short, it went into Control 99. And we have no problem for it going into Control 99 because you are collecting
Can
it.
you tell us what's Control 99?
Oh, sorry. So Control 99 is basically the account for the government of the Republic of Zambia. This is where all the taxes, every income for government has to go in for accountability purposes, for distribution purposes. You take all the monies, the taxes go into Control 99, so they call it Control 99. So the cement levy went into Control 99. We're thinking now it will be removed to be able to work into the purpose for which it was designed. And I'm taking a lot of time on the issue of housing because we can talk about planned areas, there's no problem. Someone has bought a piece of land, it's easy, you can start building, that's your area. But for unplanned settlements where we have too many people, I think that we needed a national solution. And that is one of the interventions we proposed. So as we speak now, there's still cement levy, but it's not for improving unplanned settlements. It's a proposal that came, so it was an innovative idea. I still insist that we need to push that money back into improving our unplanned settlements. What other interventions from a housing point of view? I've noticed that we still see a shift of people moving from the rural part of Zambia into the urban setup. So we still have urbanization. So for as long as we don't deal with economic opportunities in the rural part of Zambia or in the rural part of Africa, because it's not just a Zambia problem, for as long as people will prefer to leave the rural part of where they are staying, it simply means that we'll still end up having pressure on the already limited infrastructure in the urban setup. So what should be done? For me, the starting point would be, can we map what resources are available in these rural parts of Zambia? Because you've heard there's a gold rush in Zambia. People are rushing for gold. That's the rural part of Zambia. Imagine if we set up industries in Mufumbwe. The 50,000 Zambians who moved all over into Mufumbwe, suddenly buses were loaded with people into Mufumbwe because there were economic opportunities. So if we structure these economic opportunities correctly, I'm foreseeing a situation where...
So what was happening in Mufumbwe for people that don't know?
For people that are not from Zambia.
Okay, yeah. So for people that may not be aware, Zambia is predominantly a mining country. The anchor sector is mining. What drives our economy is mining. So we have, for many years, been doing copper mining. We've been mining copper for electrical wiring. I'm sure you know what copper is used for. But then there are these other precious minerals, the special minerals, the high-valued minerals that people have been discovering. And I'm not saying government, I'm saying people have been discovering. You go farming and then you are digging and then you find something that looks very unique and then you whisper to someone and then someone tells you that is actually gold. So we have a lot of small-scale mining, what you may classify as illegal mining, meaning that people don't have the formalized, mechanized type of mining. But because they're digging out minerals that have got high value, and word suddenly went around that on the northwestern side of Zambia, there are minerals. So people rushed into northwestern province from all over Zambia, okay? So imagine if that type of mining was properly designed, properly set up, formalized, then no one would be would be wanting to come into the urban setup. Then the challenge of housing now will be dealt with at district level. So one of the things I would propose, and this is something that I would want to learn from those of you who've had the opportunity to travel in different places, who've attended forums, is how do we get the local economic development strategy correct for people in the rural part of Zambia? Because if we get it right, there will be no need for people to come into the urban setup. The shopping malls, the proper medical facilities will be in the rural part of Zambia. So I think that is one of the strategies I think we should look at, ensuring that we don't get people moving into the urban setup when they can actually get opportunities in the rural part of Zambia.
Great. Yeah. Let's talk about one of the key elements that we highlighted.
Yeah.
Public health.
Yeah.
Cities exist in environments that require a coexistence between nature and people.
Yeah.
And on the Copper Belt specifically, we've seen cases of public health challenges.
Yeah.
You were mayor for a city that has almost 1 million people.
Yeah.
How did you, from your experience, manage the desire for economic transformation and sustainability, ensuring that it's clean water, there is better air quality, there are no toxic chemicals being, emitted or
The environment.
left in the Kifue River or any other water bodies? And how do you reflect on what has happened since you were mayor of Kitwe and now? We had a case recently in Kitwe with the tailings dam collapsing.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile what's going on currently with respect to economic transformation or economic development in the extractive industry, as well as creating a more livable and sustainable environment?
Well, so at the center of what you have highlighted, I'm trying to mark off maybe 2 or 3 important issues. Number one, you're talking about how do we manage economic activity vis-a-vis protecting our environment and ensuring that we live in a place that is of high levels of public health. Yeah. Now, each local authority in Zambia has got a public health department. So you have people that have a responsibility to ensure that from a public health point of view, if there's a breakout of a disease, quickly we arrest it. If we have a problem to do with contamination, there must be a department that should be able to bring quickly all the stakeholders. So Copperbelt and Kitwe in particular is a mining province. So you have cases of pollution. Now, pollution is not just chemicals going into the Kafua River. The Kafua River, by the way, is our major river, apart from the Zambezi River, that runs across, I don't know how many districts, Kitwe, it goes into Mpongwe. So one of the things that we think has to be done, and I'm saying has to be done because I'm quickly going to the solution to the problem. One of the things that has to be quickly done is that from an LED point of view, and I used these words earlier, local economic development point of view, you can't have an LED strategy that just focuses on extracting the business opportunities. You can't have an LED strategy that only talks about where do our people get the money from, okay? You can't have an LED strategy that excludes the aspect of we have too many people in one area and then there will be pressure on public infrastructure. Now, what is one of the public infrastructures which attracts too much pressure is obviously sewer lines. So if you have an area growing as huge as Kitwe and you are not matching the planning of infrastructure for the population that is growing, then you have a risk in terms of public health, because now you end up people building houses without a sewer line. You end up having a situation where people now have to dig a borehole and a septic tank nearby. So now you end up having a situation where from the same area, you have people digging for water because they need water, and then you have people digging for where the sewer should go. So we decided from a planning point of view that can we identify how much money would we need as we open up a place called New Kitwe. So in Kitwe, across the Kafua River, there's a place called the New Kitwe after Riverside. So we decided that whoever is going to buy a piece of land should also be able to pay for support services, basic road, water and sewer. So we called the water utility company. We said, can you tell us how much money it would cost for us to provide not just the piece of land for you to build, but also the money that is required for a water utility company to feed sewer and water pipelines. Of course, there was an outcry. People said, no, but the cost of the property will be too high. How am I going to pay for the plot, for the piece of land, and at the same time pay for these other two things that are needed? So we ended up having a problem where people were not willing to pay for the extra services because they were almost higher than the cost of the piece of land. Because the piece of land was costing maybe, for argument's sake, $1,000, which is 25,000 kwacha. But when you have to add sewer, and you have to add all these other things that are needed, then it became impossible for people to afford the piece of land. So from a public health point of view, we've ended up having a situation where the local authority has given out land and people have started building because people want housing. They want to stay, occupy places that are near economic activity. But unfortunately, there's no sewer line running into the New Kitwe. And we're saying New Kitwe because it's supposed to be a well-planned area. There's no water running in terms of properly piped water into the New Kitwe because the cost of providing that infrastructure is too high. So I'm beginning from that perspective because the immediate risk on public health is that we may end up having a situation where in future, the same water that people are digging to drink is contaminated because you have to put a septic tank in your piece of land. So that's a problem in itself. I don't know if you wanted to add something.
Let's talk about
Yeah.
toxic spills
Yeah.
specifically.
Okay.
And what's been happening, not only in Kitwe or in Zambia, but also in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
From your time as mayor and now member of parliament, are there particular areas that you think, maybe from a regulation point of view
Yeah.
or policy enforcement point of view, that needs improvement in ensuring that there is harmony between economic activities, especially in the extractive industry,
Yeah.
and the well-being of an
Huge
ordinary
industry.
farmer in Kamfinsa,
Yeah.
who survives by making sure that there is arable land for them to produce food, or a fisherman on the downstream of the Kefir River who depends on fishing to, support their well-being and families, or a gardener that depends on irrigating water from nearby rivers.
Yeah.
How do you think about these things as a publicly elected official?
Well, from a policy point of view, I think we have a lot of international agreements that relates to the environment. I think Zambia has signed a couple of agreements ensuring that the environment is protected. But here's where the problem comes in. Because there is mining activity happening, okay? You have tailing dams. Now, what are tailing dams? Tailing dams, this is where you mount a wall on the right, left, and then you put your material that has to be treated. You want to extract the copper because the copper has got value. Copper right now is selling for, I think, 10,000. If I have to put an average amount, $9,800 a ton. In a good week, maybe 9,900. So there's this huge demand for our commodity called copper. So now we have to get the environment right to avoid the challenge you have raised. What challenge have you raised? The challenge which is there is that the regulator, which is the Zambia Environmental Management Agency, and I'm assuming these are problems happening across Africa where you have this rush for minerals. Because you have a regulator or an agency called ZEMA, which is Zambia Environmental Management Agency, they don't have the representation where the actual mining is happening. So if you come to the Copper Belt, which is the province where I'm coming from, ZEMA, which is the regulator or the enforcement organization, is based in Ndola. So Ndola is our provincial capital. Now Ndola, yes, they produce cement, so there's a bit of mining for the material you need for cement. But the real mining, the copper mining, the threat on the environment from a different perspective is beyond Ndola. Chambishi, where you recently had the spillage, I'm sure you heard that in Zambia you have the Kafua River that has been contaminated because acid found its way into the Kafua River. Now the Kafua River runs across I don't know how many districts. And I'm sure from the reports that you've all been reading about, we now have a situation where 7 months down the line, reports are emerging that the water is still not safe for our people. Yeah. Okay, and I'm sure from the pictures, it's just that I don't have anything to beam at the moment. You have a situation where fish species have been lost. Arable land, which is supposed to be good, the soil samples that were taken, obviously, affect those that want to do farming. So where is the problem? The problem starts with, do we have a team not only for ZEMA, because ZEMA deals with the environment, but do we have a team of inspectors? And this is the proposal that I want to have presented in Parliament, that every district where there's mining should have a team, not just inspectors from the mining department, because we always send officers from mining. We always send officers from ZEMA to go into a place where an accident has happened. But why can't we have a different approach where you ask ZEMA, who are the environmental guys, you ask Ministry of Mines, who are the mining inspectors, to set up an office in every district so that on a weekly basis they're able to inspect, they're able to check how safe are we with mining, how safe are we with our rivers. So currently, ZEMA has not decentralized its work. They are only located in Ndola, I think, and the capital city, which is Lusaka. Now, where is mining taking place? Where is different economic activity taking place? It's literally across Zambia. Central province, people are mining for gold. They are mining for manganese. These are minerals that are high valued. but Zema hasn't got the physical presence in those areas. So from an infrastructural point of view, from an institutional point of view, I think we can do more. We will need to employ more workers. We are going into the budget session. Parliament will be opening very soon. I would also want to see how government has responded to this request, because doesn't even need to come from Christopher Kang'ombe. Government has acknowledged that we're not doing more in terms of ensuring that the environment doesn't get protected. How do we protect our environment? Perhaps we need to employ more people who can then deal with prevention. We prevent prevention, but also maybe we also deal with, in the event that an accident happens, how effective is our response plan? So I'll need to look at the budget. I'll need to look at the budget. Is there a line dealing with this particular aspect of employing more people under mining, employing more people under the regulator, which is Zema, and maybe any other department that will deal with this issue? But also, lastly, without sounding controversial, Zema, which is the regulator, is actually a government agency. So if Zema is a government agency, it means that the minister has to appoint the board that oversees Zema. It also means that Zema is not an independent organization. They are not an autonomous organization. Now, if they are not autonomous, it simply means that when there's need for them to do their work independently, the level of independence we want them to have or possess in resolving a problem such as the problem we have currently of the Kafua River being contaminated, that level of independence will not be there. They'll have to ask, okay, we have a report. The report says the level of contamination is here, but can we do this? Then the other issues come in. So I'm thinking, can these key agencies that really deal with the key issues affecting our people, can they have a certain level of autonomy? Is it possible that they can have a certain level of autonomy? Maybe that will help us. I don't know. I'm just thinking.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to open it up for questions so that we can have a dialogue and allow everybody to ask questions. I'll, in the meantime, try to ask you my last question, perhaps, and probably we can allow others to ask. So we have a huge youth population on the continent right now.
Yeah.
Close to 830 million young people will enter the labor market by 2050, which is both a huge opportunity and threat to the continent. When you think about Zambia, specifically and the African continent at large, what are some of the skills and opportunities do we need to make sure that we prepare the next generation of leaders to be active citizens, to be innovators, to be problem solvers, to be entrepreneurs? What areas do you see as the key areas of acupuncture?
Well, key areas or opportunities that are available for this generation, not just the future generation, but also the current generation of young people. You can't design or you can't provide job opportunities without looking at sectors that drive the economies of the countries. So if you are in a country like Zambia, obviously the conversation around mining still has to be on the table. If you go to countries where they have very good soils, they are sitting in a location where they can grow different types of crops, agriculture has to be part of the conversation, because now agriculture should not be looked at from just providing food for families. Agriculture now has to be looked at from the perspective of how can we carry young people in the value chain. Now, let me give an example of the conversations we've been having in Zambia. For many years, agriculture, people only discuss maize. So for those that may not be aware, back home, the staple food is maize. You grow your maize, and then the maize is processed into what you call mini meal. Now, if we are producing 3.6 million tons of maize, which is how much maize we are producing as a country, and each farmer is only able to do 2 tons of maize per hectare. So on a piece of land which is 100 by 100 meters, you're only producing 2 tons of that maize. It means that your yield is low, because regionally, if you go into other parts of Africa, they are doing 4 to 5 tons of maize for the same hectare. So if you're doing 2 hectares, it's not enough. If we did 4 or 5 hectares, already there are opportunities, because what will happen, the people that need to consume the food will have enough to consume locally, and then we have an export market opportunity. Instead of what has been happening now, when you hear government wants to export maize, the first thing that happens is everyone raises alarm. Why are you exporting maize when we haven't satisfied our local needs? Now imagine if our local needs is 3 million tons of maize, and each farmer is able to do more than 2 hectares. It means that we'll be getting maybe 7 million tons of maize. So if we have 7 million tons of maize, who would want to keep 7 million tons of maize in Zambia? I mean, no one will consume that amount of maize. Then we can be able to say, can we structure an export strategy for this commodity? There lies an opportunity for young people. So I'm asking myself, can government then have 2 strategies? A strategy to produce the maize that we need locally, that we need to satisfy our farmers, to satisfy Food Reserve Agency. By the way, Food Reserve Agency back home is the agency that buys food for food security. To avoid us having to go without food, you make sure FRA has bought enough. Now, FRA also has a mandate to export maize. So they have to go to another ministry called the Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry. They are the only ministry that can issue an export permit. So now, where are the opportunities there? Number one, if young people can then be allowed to access properly planned farms, because you can't do commercial farming if you don't have security of tenure on your piece of land. Today you are farming, you're not sure if tomorrow that piece of land will be given to someone else. So I've proposed, and this is something I've been asking in Parliament, and I'm sure this debate is coming on the floor as we open. Can we find a strategy to improve the yield per hectare of each farmer? Number one, how do we do it? Let farmers know, if I'm farming on this piece of land, it's farm A, this is my farm. So land ownership. If we don't get land ownership correctly, what will happen is that people will continue farming the way they've been farming. Today you farm, you ask, are we farming again this farming season? Yes, you can still continue. So ownership is at the center of those opportunities. So agriculture, for me, can give us the opportunities, not just from the production point of view, but from the commercial side of farming. And why are we always talking about maize in Zambia? I don't know about other countries. I've noticed that people just talk about one crop. If you go into, is it Ivory Coast, where they do a lot of cocoa? Everyone wants to farm cocoa because it's what gives you the money. But there are other cash crops. So our strategy as a country must change. Our strategy as Africa must change beyond the crops that we know. There lies opportunities for young people. In the mining value chain, there's another proposal that I've taken to Parliament. My proposal is that while we need foreign direct investment, because these are huge millions of dollars, it will be difficult for local people to raise $300 million because it's a lot of money. But if we started with small-scale mining, exclusively we come up with a law that will state that if you want to do artisanal mining, you just have to be a Zambian, or if you are in Ghana where they are doing gold mining, you just have to be Ghanaian, because there lies opportunities. So I'm asking myself, can we take affirmative action on low-hanging fruits? What are the low-hanging fruits? Every mineral we are producing has got value. So can we align the value chain from mining to the actual commercial side of mining? Because we are used to just digging. The people you call illegal miners are just good at digging, and then they are affected by the pricing. So I'm thinking growth areas must be identified. ICT. Last year, the ICT sector in Zambia only contributed 2% towards our GDP. Now, if 2% is what ICT is contributing, it can contribute more. So there are opportunities for growth. The population is increasing. I think we can do better in that area.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I did promise at the beginning that I'll try to get a politician to answer questions. And I think you've risen to the challenge. Yeah. But you're still on the hook, and I'll allow others to be able to ask questions. Please tell us your name, the institution that you represent, and go ahead with the question.
Alan.
Can everyone hear me? My name is Brenda Mofia. I work with Oxfam. I represent Oxfam at the UN.
Okay.
I'm basically representing the confederation of 21 different independent organizations. I first and foremost want to acknowledge the relevance of this conversation and emphasizing that to begin with, local is global and global is local.
Yeah.
And that saying of being local is global and global is local is the relationship that exists between what is happening at individual level
Yeah.
to what's happening at global level, and how important it is that we align to policies that are coming from local and how informed they are by the local realities, and also us assessing the impact of global spaces. I think this is something that has been missing a lot of times, where we have conversations at this level, even where it's been understood and emphasized that frameworks such as the SDGs are SDGs that have to make meaning at local level.
Yeah.
We rarely have these sort of conversations. Speaking of SDGs, I mean, it's one framework that even at national level, you would see that the plans that are at national levels, they mirror so much on the SDGs. And it's the only, the plans that we are having are plans that more or less every person can align to the 17 goals, but also a framework that has some level of accountability in
Yeah.
terms of delivery, right? So this conversation is a conversation that I think we should be having all the time. When it comes to accountability, we are also aware that the SDGs haven't delivered.
Yeah.
60%, am I correct, of SDGs, we're talking about 10 years since SDGs were put in place, 60% implementation, like it's lacking for 60%, so that hasn't happened. Usually when there's accountability and reporting on the SDGs, there's glossing of what is happening on the ground. Like
Yeah.
governments come here and they make reports that essentially are showing this picture that doesn't exist, nearly all of them. I've accompanied quite a number of countries and civil society who have done what are known as shadow reports on SDGs. And those shadow reports and the civil society that come from national level are oftentimes brought by governments. So the pictures which they paint mirrors what the governments want to talk about. So it's self-praise. Independent assessments such as these are rarely had anywhere. So I'm glad, for example, that you've touched on key SDGs, the housing, and so on and so forth. I am Zambian, so I can relate to many of the things that you've raised here. You've talked about housing, for example, and I'm just wondering, in my experience, being a resident somehow of Lusaka in different neighborhoods, I can't even differentiate I can't differentiate what you mentioned. The organized,
Planned and unplanned.
planned and unplanned.
Shalala is a mess.
No, not even that.
Yeah.
I am resident in Kapolonga,
Okay.
which is supposed to be
The planned.
Residential area. And even in Kapolonga, I don't feel any delivery of any services, right? The people of Kapolonga still have had to dig boreholes, for example, in order for water to be supplied. Otherwise, you don't get any water from Lusaka. Water company, sewerage and water company. And there is confusion even in Kapolonga before you come to Kalingalinga in terms of whether those boreholes that are being dug are not tampering with the sewer systems, because no one even has any plans, like when we're digging the boreholes, although in recent years it's being controlled, right? Like there's a level of reporting that you have to do, although that reporting is just making payment to Zima, right? To Wama. And no one comes to see whether the existing sewer systems are being tampered with or not. At least in my experience, I haven't seen that. So even the planned settlements, like there is no relationship to the infrastructure, so to say, the infrastructure that's existing. Even when it comes to roads, you know, we still have to think about how our roads will be, except for a few places here and there, right? And then comparing that to Palavana, where I'm also trying to do something in Palavana. Palavana is even worse.
Yeah.
You know, it's supposed to be planned, but nothing. Like we have had to do our own roads. I mean, the feeder roads, right? The water system, the sewer, and so on. So the challenges that you're mentioning are not just limited to the unplanned settlements, but across the country. In terms of solutions, I'm wondering whether some lessons could be drawn from countries like Ethiopia. You know, I lived in Ethiopia for 11 years, and I saw how Addis was transformed. You know, when I moved to Addis in 2010, everywhere you saw was unplanned settlement, right? And years later, we saw a system where housing was resolved, like there are condominiums being established everywhere and being built. The infrastructure in terms of water, in terms of electricity, in terms of all these things are there. And we're talking about 110 million people across the country. We're not even talking about 20 million that Zambia provides, right? And I'm wondering whether we can learn from there and see where we can start from. There's also a mortgage system that has been established at a very local level. You know, a driver, a maid can afford buying a house. So we can talk about other things, but I think I've talked enough already. So
Thank you so much. Thank you. Sylvia.
Good afternoon. My name is Xavier Mwambwa. I work for a private foundation called Open Society Foundation, but I must emphasize that I'm here in my personal capacity as a Zambian. With my OSF work, I really work on international financial issues, climate finance, industrial policy, and really my role is globally facing. So I work with governments in the Global South, in Africa specifically. I also worked on questions of debt before. But coming back to this, I mean, these are big questions, right? I think it's so easy for us to really zoom in on the single issues or the symptoms. So I normally like stretching this kind of discussion in a frame. So what is the context right now? I think to start off where you started off, you picked Lusaka and Kitwe as the two most urbanized. I think 40%, at least 40% of Zambians live in the urban areas. In the next 20 years, Kitwe and Lusaka will have doubled in population, and 70% of these urban dwellers live in informal settlements. So that's sort of the gravity of the problem. So it's not just a housing deficit, it's not an infrastructure deficit problem only, it's also a question of jobs, it's a youth crisis as well. There's a risk of the youth crisis if our economy is not growing at such a pace that we grow enough jobs. So some of the things we spoke about around value addition, agro-processing, increasing productivity, all speak to the aspect of what is our national vision in the next 20 to 50 years. Where do we want to be in terms of how many young people do we want to lift out of poverty by different means. So agriculture is one of them.
In a targeted manner.
Exactly. So it also means we have to be clear as a country on the model of development. Some of the things we're talking about are contradictory because of the specific model we're pursuing right now. So for example, you have to make a choice. Do you want to invest in policies that will attract FDI at the expense of, for example, local industries, or at the expense of SME? Or maybe you want to have a deliberate SME policy that says, regardless of what's going on around the world, we'll be relating to others to the extent that they're actually fulfilling our SME strategy. And also, we keep saying we need to do this, or we need to make other people do this. nothing happens by accident. It's leadership, and I don't mean just political leadership.
Yeah.
I mean, if we don't have this national vision where everybody has agreed, regardless of the political side, regardless of who's in power, then what we'll be doing is reacting and not responding. And I said this when I was in Zambia on radio. I said, you react. When you have a strategy, you respond. When you don't have a strategy, you react to something. So you're reacting to other people's interests. So the first starting point is about the type of leaders like yourselves, whether it's members of parliament, whether it's executive, whether it's academia, think tanks, NGOs, coming together to really have some common ground of saying, yes, this is the kind of discussion we should have. And I think I should commend you for really, I think you've always been like that. You've always been proactive in having this engagement with your voters and Zambians to really share your vision. Yeah. And even if you're wrong, or even if you're not sure about the ideas, you actually put them out there. That's the only way we can make progress.
And the idea is cleaned up.
Yeah, because action comes from ideas. Yeah. That's my first point. So we really can't have this discussion in a vacuum. We need to have that political, ideological context of where we situate this discussion. And more specifically, I want to trap you. I want to trap you. I have some questions. So imagine you are standing for president.
Yeah.
Hypothetically speaking.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you say you are good. You have to begin to say, how do we transform Zambia so that we can resolve the issue we're talking about? Part of the problem is that we don't have our fiscal space is small. We don't have money.
Yeah.
Like we have so many demands, right? So many needs. But even saying, okay, what are our priorities? And without leverage, you can't have a very meaningful bargain with the rest of the world, whether it's donors, whether it's investors, whether it's other countries, or even in the region. So what is our lever? Our leverage is the critical minerals, right? Everybody wants critical minerals. Yeah. But if you're giving them away, or if you're not using them strategically, then you're losing the leverage. So for me, how do we begin to use our leverage, not just for Zambia, but with the region as well? Then we begin to bargain and negotiate with China, with the EU, with America, around getting technology transfer. Mm-hmm. That is what will help us move up the value chain. It's technology. It's not a raw material. Currently, we're trapped into this raw material exporting phenomena, right? Yeah. That's why we debt trap. Yeah. We produce and export what we don't need, and then we import everything that we need. So obviously, we need an extra foreign exchange rate. Yeah. So we need to flip that on its head. But then, if we don't have this sort of like your budget, you spoke about your budget should be a reflection of your political vision. Right? It should be an annual translation of the political ideology, so how you're spending the money. So I think we need to begin to have these sort of questions, and then the sector-specific questions are just now the means. They're just the tactics or the way you do it. But we have to be clear on the larger strategic questions, which I think across parties in Zambia, you could actually remove the first page of all the manifestos, and you probably won't tell the difference. There's sort of lack of ideological clarity in terms of the strategic policy where you want to take the country. But thank you very much for being one of those elected officials that are really willing to confront these issues and discuss. There are lots of ideas in Zambia. Like there's no lack of ideas. It's really we have to have accountability. People should have. You give young people hope that when they say something or they want to do something, they can do it without any constraints, any political constraints. So that space is very important for young people. They can do everything for themselves. They don't need politicians. They don't need us to tell them what they have to do for them. They know that. We just need to create the conditions for them to emerge with those ideas. Yeah, I have some questions I'll ask you later, but
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And you both brought up very important aspects of like, sustainable economic development and what it looks like in the context of Zambia and the continent, both at micro and macro levels. And in the interest of time, I will ask for one more reaction or comment, a couple of more, maybe three.
Maybe we limit the time.
Yeah, please.
But everyone, at least the two, should get a chance to.
Yeah, please be as specific as possible. Under a minute, please go ahead.
Okay,
yes.
Who's starting first?
I guess I am. And so it goes into something I think, and it's really
introduction.
I will. First, going on what Brenda and also a colleague here said, which makes us together, but also something that Christopher had said is because this is about reforming the land and the economy and everything. So when we have access to land, how, who, and what, and that, creating equality as well, and making sure, including what Kang'ombe said about about looking at how we stop people going from rural to urban, especially decentralizing, losing land, agriculture, and also as well as including this goes into copper mining, to other things like that, and also changing the whole global system, taking it with whole global look. And that's exactly what Brenda also is. We're putting out different things. But first, one thing that you did mention, which is also like mining and digging, is food sovereignty versus food security.
Yeah.
Food sovereignty is, I think, a very important point. It goes into a lot of things, and I wanted to note on that because I know that you mentioned about food security, but what we've been saying in Kenya and other places is actually we have to change this, and including Ethiopia is a prime example. The things like maize, those were not indigenous to the continent, and that's what still is wrong with the continent, is that we're looking about cash rather than ourselves, right? And that's that part where if Brenda looks at the food makeup of Ethiopia, it's indigenous. And so now, as many things are happening, we have even in Kenya, it's ugali.
Yeah.
And ugali is not indigenous.
No, it's not.
It's not nutritious.
Even the maize we are eating, yeah, it's a Mexican crop.
Yes. And so really more to the point is food sovereignty, whether we have food sovereignty rather than. And I'm Daniel Hummer. I'm from Marshall Planet.
Thank you.
Okay.
Daniel. Really appreciate it. We'll get to 2 more comments real quick
And we wrap
then
up.
we'll to wrap up. Yeah.
So who's next?
Would you like to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Loretta.
My name is Sun Young Yoon. In Korean, that means peace. Peace forever. Thank you so much.
You're blocking your camera with your fingers. Oh, just yeah.
For my crash course on Zambia. I'm reminded how important leadership is. And so I do have a lot of questions, but we are heading into the General Assembly.
Okay.
And at the General Assembly, there are 3 things that I'm watching. One of them is the NCD Summit on Health.
NCD?
Non-communicable diseases declaration, which will be very important for the Africa region. The AI, the Digital Compact.
Yeah.
I hear a lot about the possibilities of leapfrogging. And the Declaration of Future Generations. So we're going to be discussing all of those issues during the GA. We know that cities are really the sources of innovation for these 3 areas. And the NCD Summit, if you have green spaces, park, bicycle lanes, all of these things in place, you change a lot of the diabetes patterns. With Digital Compact, it ultimately is the infrastructure that the cities and countries are going to have to build. And Declaration of Future Generations, your investment in youth political leaders is going to be really important. So all of these things being discussed here, is the General Assembly going to be a waste of time and money for Zambia?
Okay.
And if you were president of the General Assembly, what would you want to have happen in the next few weeks to help countries like Zambia? Maybe in those 3 areas, maybe not in those 3 or another. I would love to hear from the global to the local what we need.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Loretta, and then we'll give you a couple of minutes to wrap up.
Thank you so much, Brian. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Everyone. My name is Loretta. I'm a student.
Are you in focus?
Yes. I think I can myself.
Okay.
Yeah. You can shoot.
I'll keep my question very brief. I'll just touch on what my good sir here said. Mr. Savior. Just around technology. I know Zambia, that's a conversation that's still developing around AI and stuff. And in other parts of the world, in this part of the world anyway, people are using, governments are using technology, AI, to do their planning, smart urban planning, predictive infrastructure design, and even citizen engagement. I'm just curious, like, are there any conversations around how we can use AI in urban planning processes in Zambia? And if so, how are the citizens being engaged in that process to ensure that even as we are talking about leveraging AI for urban planning and settlements, we're not just making it save the interests of the elite to save, but also like saving the average person. And then my second question is, if you were, because you've been mayor before, you've risen up the ranks of leadership, which is very admirable. Now, if you were to design the city of the future as member of parliament or as president one day, I would just love to know what 3 guiding principles you would use in developing the country.
After he's president of the General Assembly, or before.
Wow.
Expand your mind.
Brighton, how many minutes do we have? So that I can limit my. I say a lot of things.
Maybe you have 2 minutes and then we'll extend the conversation outside.
Okay. So that
we'll have a Kadam House style conversation outside.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Where's the other phone?
Just make sure. Yeah. So I'll start with the earlier two submissions. Very important submissions. So the first one, I think, our sister was speaking broadly. She's talked about where we can copy best practices. Okay, so I'm a firm believer, and this might answer some of the things that have been asked by our 2 ladies here. You can't have a strategy which is not localized. Okay, so one of the reasons why SDGs, as we do the review, let's start with the MDGs. Okay, when you look at why the MDGs failed and why some of the SDGs haven't been met by most countries, it's the lack of a localization strategy. So on paper you have these 17 nice targets. Each one even has got sub-programs. They are looking very nice. But unfortunately, the localization strategy, to copy that as an objective, take it into Zambia and then run with it, the localization strategy has not been effective. I'm not saying countries don't have localization strategies. People have flown into Britain for a Commonwealth conference on localization of SDGs. People have come into America on localization of SDGs. So really, people have learned that you need to localize your SDGs, because really what we are discussing, somehow it's appearing somewhere, okay, on the SDGs. So problem number 1 is that our localization strategies as African countries has not been effective. So we need to clearly find a way. How do we implement this nice strategy? Better water, better sanitation, those are good things. Employment opportunities, those are good things, but what is the localization strategy? That I think starts with what she referred to. So is there a model of development that we need to adopt? On one hand, we need FDI. So let me give an example of how much it costs to do mining exploration, obtaining a mining license, and then going to do the actual mining. So you get your exploration data, which tells you there's copper here and copper is existing this far. But now to develop the mine, cut it out. If it's an open pit mine, cut it out and then start getting out the minerals. You need to do what is called mining development. That is where now you need equipment. That is where now you need the dollars. So you will need $500 billion, for instance. There's no one discussing financial modeling for Zambians or Ghanaians or Ugandans to participate in that now huge cost of investment. That is where citizens lag behind. Because obtaining a mining license, anyone can get a mining license. But where do you get now the dollars to do the development, to get the material out in readiness for mining? So one of the things, if it were up to me, I would focus money on exploration data, because we need to own it. If we don't own exploration data, it means that the investor who has the dollars will have to run with the mine up to the commercial aspect. We've lost it at exploration. So you can't come and chip in and join in when now the owner is saying, I'm the one who spent the dollars. So to answer your question, what model are we looking at? What would be my proposal as a model? FDI should be for things the local people in all our African countries can't do. No wonder it's called FDI, foreign direct investment. You are telling yourselves, colleagues at our level, the resources we can raise can only be $10 million. We can't raise $1 billion. So to raise $1 billion, let's allow someone to bring in the money to get the value that we need. So that would be my proposal. Let's separate what FDI should do and what we can do. Quickly, sorry. There was also a question on non-communicable diseases.
General Assembly.
Just
Yeah.
an example.
Yeah, I'm using those declaration of futures for future generations. So again, I'll go back to what I said earlier on. These are huge conferences happening. So each General Assembly wants to achieve something. Okay? When we came here 7 months ago, we were attending conferences that were aligned to specific themes. Now, when you do the review, one of the reports that we've been getting all over these conferences that we've been attending, including the conference that will take place, the General Assembly, I don't know if you've attended them from start to finish. Have you noticed that day one, the attendance is huge? Day two, the numbers start, not that people have gone back to their countries.
They're talking to each other.
Not that they are inside meetings. Okay, it's a common problem with international conferences. I've attended COP19, COP20. You find that the numbers just start dwindling. They forget why governments have spent money to come and attend these conferences. It's as if the whole idea was just to travel. So the question I've asked myself
You're on
is,
record, you know that.
Yeah, I'm saying it as Christopher Kang'ombe because I've seen it. So is there a way in which we can have the same level of energy from day one up to the final end? Because the final end is what is critical. You've identified that we have a global crisis in terms of energy that should power economic growth. It's not a Zambian problem, it's a problem across Africa. Okay? So if Africa says the GDP should start growing beyond 6%, what should it take to get to 8%? You need energy. So if energy has been identified as a problem, and halfway in the conference people have left, at what stage do we then implement what has been agreed upon?
No, thank you. I think it's about time we left.
Lastly, she raised an important issue. AI, it's under 1 minute. 30 seconds. So, Loretta, government has, I think, launched a policy on AI. I'll need to go through that policy to then understand how is the AI policy speaking to elite problems, or is it speaking to problems that affect Zambia for the future? Are they planning opportunities for AI to be utilized? I will need to interrogate that document because it was just launched, I think, 3 months ago. We've not had time to interrogate it from policy intervention number 1, policy intervention number 2, all the way up to the end. But I'm assuming you're making a proposal. For me, I like listening very well. What you're basically saying is that AI can be a tool that can actually help us where we think we're not doing enough on our own. We can plan cities better. What are the 3 things I would look for? If I was to say, here's a city, whether developed or undeveloped, have it replanned and get it right. Number 1, okay, I would start asking myself, is this city I'm planning going to carry the economic needs of our people? Because the problem in Africa is that we want, for instance, to discourage people to do charcoal burning. We are saying it's against the environment to cut your trees and to do charcoal burning. But we're not telling them, okay, so if you are not going to cut charcoal, trees to burn it into charcoal, here's what we think you should participate in. The strategy to now redirect the economic activities of our people, that strategy is not there. So for me, I would really look at some of those aspects. I'll be able to say, I'm planning a city. So as I plan, how do I carry people from the economic point of view, because it will take us back. If we don't get it right, we'll have the haves and the have-nots, and then not even the planning will resolve that problem. So 3 issues, I'll need to sit down with you and then break them down, because I see everyone is doing this, but I needed a lot of time.
Thank you. I'm joining us.
Alternate in the state, we mentioned a rural area first.
Yeah.
And then because food sovereignty is extremely important, including how we're creating the world. If you remember originally what you said,
Yeah.
about how to plan and keep people to go into urbanization.
Yeah.
Plan to the rural, to the village.
Yeah.
We'll need a picture of everyone.
Excellent. No, thank you so much for joining us. Those who joined us online, join me in thanking Honorable Christopher Kang'ombe for being with us today.
Thank you for coming through. I was going to be speaking to myself.
Excellent. And we'll take a group picture.
Yeah.
But the crowd has thinned out like the GA.
Yeah.
No, the crowd has reduced.
Yes.
But, yeah.
Like the gym has.
Hey. But Sevi, I've attended meetings, a 1-week meeting. You're asking for ministerial approval for people to travel. You're pushing, someone is chasing the payment. Only for
Chasing the
But
money.
one more part it is this.
Only for people to-
maybe the forum. I think a question of how relevant is the UN still.
Yeah.
Maybe countries are cutting deals outside.
No,
Manage
but-
themselves. So I don't think you should use that as a proxy for people not being serious.
Okay.
It could be that the multilateral system itself is no longer set up the way it used to be before. But then countries are not cooperating. Maybe they're cooperating through other plurality arrangements.
But on the other hand, decisions that are being made on that are being imposed on them. Whether they engage
that's
or
unfair.
not.
That's unfairness of the
Yeah,
system, right? Yeah.
like the unfairness of the system is that if you don't engage and you don't take the engagement seriously, it's at your peril. Because you will have decisions.
Yeah, but
Capacity to engage when you.
But again, just engaging in an affair, engaging in a race.
But we can't always claim capacity.
nanomba tulanda pale capacity.
Yeah, because sometimes it's what you expect when you're sending cadres to represent you. That's why
Like the caliber of
He asked the question, which development model are we adopting?
which yes, you don't want to a problem never defined.
yeah.
For every political cycle, every 5 years. Every 5 years, someone has nothing happened. And there's a cost to erase everything.
And then also in the and then you sit down and think
Where are we coming from and where do we want to go?
And there should be some continuity, right? Like
There ought to be a lot of continuity.
you can't always have 5 years. That's
If you need me to send you the pictures,
Now that's how it's like the country. It's like the country is born every 5 years. Like it's starting off.
Organizing.
Thank you.
With the World Foundation. Schmidt? Oh, yeah.
For social good. Thank you. And that was a very intelligent one.
Well, I think. Yeah, you know Brenda well.
Brenda, yeah. So I'll see a picture with
So first time meeting actually. But we are the same
How are you? By the way, you must have
I said I think she was in the reading board.
think about gathering your
Where are you going? Where are you going? Are you going for coffee or tea? Don't take over the bar.
When are you leaving?
I'm needed in DC, so I want to go to DC tomorrow. I wanted to go today. I just want to confirm what time my meeting is taking place.
Okay.
You had a proposal to make?
I definitely I don't have as much time.
Okay. So
We're like 13 people.
okay, I'll need a picture.
I mean, how
I need a
often do we
picture.
get
Just a quick picture.
It's pretty much the entire country.
And you're with his, you were connected
I'm with Brandon.
Yeah, that's right.
Brandon, yeah.
There's an offer. I'm leading it up to Brenda. I don't know what she's going to
I mean, yeah.
You want to come? Yeah. You know where it is? Can you leave? I want to leave.
Before you rush out, I wanted to.
There's an offer to go to there.
When you, that time you come, you need an advisor for industrial policy.
Yeah.
You know what finding.
Yes.
You have to call a talent.
Because we have a very lucrative offer now. We go to the Harvard Club now.
Apa pay so?
But how much time do you have?
It's
How
nice.
much time do you have?
Okay, I need to check my email because I'm needed in DC. So I wanted to know if I'm going to DC today or I'll go.
Today?
Yes, by bus or something. I'm told you can go.
But when can you tell us? Because in the
Ah, pape. Offer kairi pape. Can't we take the offer now? Kitwe is where is Kitwe? Tell people not to rush out.
We're actually doing a caravan down from through, and we may stop in Kitwe and Nuku to Johannesburg.